President Trump and Kim Jong Un just moments ago sitting down for the start of their second summit, literally sitting down for dinner as we speak. They are walking into this meeting with real uncertainty, even voiced by the president, who ended their last visit by touting what he called a historic agreement. But today he acknowledged in a tweet that he will, quote, try very hard to work something out.
President Trump and Kim Jong Un face to face for their second summit.
I think this is very successful.
Here at Hanoi's historic Metropole Hotel, first meeting privately, one-on-one, followed by a dinner date alongside their top aides. Both men appearing at ease after months of trading glowing letters and compliments. Far from past threats of fire and fury and Little Rocket Man insults, the president now publicly embraces his chemistry with the North Korean dictator, even saying the two men fell in love.
And then we fell in love.
Ahead of today's face-to-face, President Trump hand-in-hand with Vietnam's leaders.
Nice to see you.
The president touting this communist country, once an American foe, that has since embraced capitalism as an example of the prosperity Kim Jong Un can achieve.
I think he wants to do something that would be on a par. If you look at what you've done in a short time, he can do it in a very, very rapid time, make North Korea into a great economic power.
President Trump punctuating the point overnight on Twitter, writing, "The potential is awesome, a great opportunity, like almost none other in history for my friend Kim Jong Un." President Trump betting his personal relationship with a murderous dictator will produce results. But giant gaps remain between U.S. and North Korean negotiators, with the president's aides conceding they've yet to even agree on the definition of denuclearization. In the 8 months since their last summit in Singapore, there are no signs North Korea is disarming. In fact, U.S. intelligence officials warn, despite a pause in missile testing, the reclusive regime is still actively producing nuclear fuel and remains committed to expanding its long-range missile program, rockets that could potentially reach the United States.
Again, as we speak, that dinner, what the White House is describing as a social dinner, is going on. These pictures in from just moments ago. You see the president there alongside the North Korean dictator, also joined by the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and his acting chief of staff, the president's acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney. Foreign policy experts, including some of President Trump's allies, have expressed real concerns that the president may be all too willing to make a deal here, to give too much away, to divert attention from that political turmoil back at home. Michael Cohen's testimony today, a White House official insisting the president is entirely focused on this summit here, but as evidenced by his tweets earlier, it's clear that his attention is divided. But when he was asked about Michael Cohen just moments ago, he ignored the reporter's questions.